Hey guys, we are well into 2023, but I still want to take a look back to 2022 and tell you guys what my personal favorite 10 anime were of that year. I do have an honorable mention this year, and it's honestly just gonna go to The Rising of Shield Hero Season 2, because this is my thing with isekai. Sometimes the first season, they're trying to throw so much information at you to build the world, to show all of the characters, and sometimes it gets a little bit overwhelming, and it usually takes me until Season 2 to fully warm up to the characters and fully understand the world. And that was definitely the case with Konosuba, ReZero, and now The Rising of Shield Hero. I understand that a lot of people actually did not prefer the second season to the first season, but I actually really appreciated the second season. It was a little bit slower. I got to know some of the characters more instead of them throwing so many things at you at one time. When I watched the first season, I wasn't really sold with keeping up with The Rising of the Shield Hero, but after season 2, I'm honestly looking forward to season 3 and to see how the story continues. Now to get on to the actual list with number 10, Aharen-san wa Hakarenai, which for some reason in English they translated to Aharen is indecisive. Indecipherable. That is, say it right now, indecipherable. That's a hard word to say. This is the kind of show that I was a little bit nervous going into because I wasn't really a big fan of the type of shows where the trope is that in the back of the class you've got a guy character and a girl character usually, and they don't really pay attention in class and they do all these antics and they distract each other. I think the first one I ever watched was Tonari no Seki-kun, and I really wasn't into that. Maybe I should give it another rewatch, but at the time I really wasn't into it. And then I watched Teasing Master Takagi-san, which I liked a little bit better, but I really loved Aharen-san because I just think its comedy was better out of any of the other kinds of those shows that I've watched. Just ridiculous facial expressions and honestly comedy that was easy to relate to, as ridiculous as it was. I just really love its soft color palette as well, and just how easy it is to watch. I would always just put it on after watching something a little bit more intense. Hopefully this is not all that we see from Aharen. There is a manga that keeps going, so I'm hoping that we'll get a season 2. And because it's one of the funniest shows, honestly, probably the funniest show to come out in 2022, if you need some laughs, this is your one. If you need a comedy, Aharen-san. Number 9, you probably remember me mentioning this one and a lot of these, most of these, in past videos, but Hakozume. Hakozume is the show about the female cops who work at a koban. Now, a koban is, in Japan, a police box, so to speak, and it's basically a place you could just go into. They have them at the park, they'll have them on different areas in different sides of town, near stations and stuff, and if you just need immediate police help, instead of like going through the hassle of going to the police station, because let me tell you, the police stations in Japan, they are not helpful. The kobans, in my experience, have been a lot more helpful. So this show is about 2 female cops, 1 newer cop and 1 more of a veteran cop. It just shows their experience of being female cops in Japan and how sometimes they get a little bit discriminated against, or maybe when they're out getting criminals, maybe the criminals don't take them so seriously, only for them to be like total BAs in the end. Hakozume is episodic, so you can kind of just like not super remember what happened in the last episode and just jump into the next one. They do not pull their punches when it comes to the content that they will show and some of the things that the cops have to deal with. I mean, realistically, you think about maybe what cops in Japan have to deal with and the severity of these situations. They do not pull punches in this show either. So do be warned that there is that in the show, but overall, it's considering the fact that some of the shows can be super, super heavy, it always does jump back and become light, and it just checks off a lot of things on the checklist. It checks off drama, it checks off mystery, it checks off crime, it checks off comedy even. So if you need something that's maybe not as ridiculous to watch as some of the other anime that are going to be on this list, Hakozume is a really good one. Definitely one of the most surprising shows of the season, for me at least. Now to go to a completely different turn and tell you about the most ridiculous show of the season, or at least one of those ridiculous shows of the season. Number 8 is Akiba Maid War. So take Akiba Maids and take gang wars and put them together and you have Akiba Maid War. The main character dreams of being a maid in Akihabara, and she shows up at Akihabara at her first job, only to find out that like later in the episode, why are all these maids shooting each other? Why is there so much violence? Why is this literally gang wars and not Moi Moi Kyun maids? Now, you have to go into the show and not take it very serious because there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of questioning characters, like why would you do this? Why not just go home? Why are you accepting your life now being in a gang rather than being a maid? It's like, it's so unserious. You have to take it not so seriously at all. But it's funny, and it is one of the very few shows that I've seen where I actually like it the more that I watch it. And unfortunately the case of a lot of anime is that I'll like the first half, but then the second half really slows down, or I don't enjoy it as much. This was the complete opposite, where I was really hesitant at the first, 3 or 4 episodes. I was like, there is no way I'm going to like this. There's no way this is going to make the list. And by like episode 7 or 8, I was really hooked, and the story starts going, and it's ridiculous, it's violent. You have to understand that it is technically a dark comedy, so go into it like that. And if you're into those sorts of shows, you've got to watch it. It's Number 7 on the list is Paripi Koumei. This is also one you have to go into not so seriously. Also one of those ridiculous premises that I'm gonna have to explain, and you guys are gonna think that I need therapy. Paripi Koumei stars Kongming, who, be easy on me, I do not know anything about Chinese history, but he's like this ancient Chinese warlord who gets isekai'd. Follow through here with me. He gets isekai'd to modern day Japan and meets a girl, Eiko, who works at a club in Japan, like a live house, and she aspires to be an EDM music star, and so this ancient Chinese warlord from thousands of years ago helps her accomplish that. And it's so unserious and so goofy, and when I first read that premise, I was like, but wow, they presented it so good, it's so funny, the animation is great, and of course the music has to be good because it's electronic dance music. I would say if you were hesitant about, maybe if you look this one up and you were hesitant about it because of how goofy it seemed, I was at first turned off completely at first. I did not think I was gonna like it, but by episode 2, I was all in. If by episode 2 or 3, you're not all in, just drop it. But I think you should definitely give it a chance. It's so funny, and it goes to show that any ridiculous scenario, anime can do it. Anime can make it possible. Number 6, Akebi-chan no seifuku, Akebi's sailor fuku. This show, it was so heartwarming. Just kinds of thing that I need every single year is just a heartwarming show like this. Akebi has just graduated elementary school, and she wants to go to the same middle school that her mother went to and wear seifuku. The same seifuku that her mother wore when she was a child. And so her mother makes her her own seifuku, like sailor uniform, and they go to school only to find out that they don't use sailor fuku there anymore. They don't use sailor uniforms there anymore. They use like kind of the blazer type of Japanese school uniform that you'll see a lot more commonly in Japan. But the school actually just lets her wear her seifuku to school, so she's the only one in a completely different uniform in the whole school. And usually with these kinds of anime, it's like, oh, you're gonna bully the girl that stands out, or the girl who stands out is gonna have the main character problem, like, oh, you're gonna get made fun of, people are gonna want to feel sad for you. But it doesn't feel like that at all. If anything, it feels like the side character is the main character, and then Akebi becomes an encouragement to them, and it's just like her journey about making friends, and it's so wholesome. And every single episode, it doesn't really make you angry or feel sorry for Akebi or anything. It's just a delight to watch. Like, oh man, I wish normal life was like this wholesome. It's also a really accurate picture of middle school in Japan, I feel. I've taught in middle school in Japan, and I just felt like it portrayed life and the schools and the system really well, so there's that. And also one of the best animated shows of last year. I hope it better get a nomination at the Crunchyroll Awards for Best Animation, because I think this, for it being a school anime, is one of the best animated shows of last year. Number 5, it just goes to Dress Up Darling. Dress Up Darling was everything that I figured it would be when my friend told me about the manga. She was a manga reader, and she's like, yeah, you have to read this series about this like girl who's totally passionate about otaku culture and being into anime and games, and she wants to cosplay but doesn't know how to sew, and so she gets this guy named Gojo who is really good at sewing to make her the costumes, and they fall in love and blah blah. And I was like, I'm totally sold. I'm sold on that. After the anime aired, I did pick up the manga, and I've been really impressed with how they adapted it. Like, it's been adapted really well. I also just love, like, sometimes with romance anime and slice of life anime, we get kind of the short end of the stick when it comes to quality and the animation, and I'm glad that Cloverworks has really put their heart into Dress Up Darling, and every single episode is just done really well. So I'm excited to see where it keeps going, because the manga does keep going, so give me more. We all want season 2. Maureen is a character. She's just so unapologetically passionate. I adore her. Number 4, Bocchi the Rock. Bocchi the Rock. I cannot stop thinking about Bocchi. I cannot stop talking about Bocchi. I was a big K-On! Fan back when it aired. And so this is like, some people are gonna be mad at me for saying this. This is like K-On!, but 2022, and throw in some anxiety. Tori Goto, who's like, becomes Bocchi, her nickname is Bocchi. She is really good at guitar, or becomes really good at guitar at the beginning of the series, and then puts her playing out on the internet for us to see without showing her face, and she becomes really popular, gets a bunch of subscribers. but she struggles with social anxiety and anxiety in general. And so she joins this band and she wants to be able to stand on stage and play in front of a group of people with her band. But when your social anxiety creates a wall that you just can't get through, like how do you get over that wall? How do you break through that? And that's basically what Bocchi's about. These high school girls creating a band and trying to get members to come to these like small clubhouses to see their band. Maybe the audience has like maybe 6 people in it, and that's kind of how it is for startup bands and startup idols in Japan. But the most interesting thing about it is the theme of, dealing with social anxiety, dealing with mental illnesses. And this is the kind of thing I want to see in anime more. Like, I don't think we have to have a psychological thriller or like something crazy like Lane or Evangelion to be like, this is mental illness. I like the discussion of mental illness and having anxiety and social anxiety being within this really cute slice of life anime, and it's really wholesome, and like there's comedy, and like Bocchi's faces are hilarious, and like there's parts that maybe aren't so wholesome just because they're so ridiculous. But Bocchi checked off a lot of boxes for me, between it just being cute girls doing maybe not so cute things. That's a genre I really like, and I just think the storyline's gonna keep going. Hopefully we get, this show blew up. This is not the last time we're gonna see Bocchi. Number 3 on the list. I cannot believe this is going over Bocchi, but hear me out. Chainsaw Man, I'm putting it here because it was the series that, maybe other than Akiba Maid War and Paripi Koumei, really took me by surprise, because I am not really into shonen. I was never on the Jujutsu Kaisen train, I was never on the Demon Slayer train, I was on the Attack on Titan train when it aired, but then I just quickly fell out of it. Like, I really haven't been consistently into shonen since I was a teenager. I remember people telling me to read Chainsaw Man. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this stupid shonen. It's gonna be like every other shonen. I'm not gonna really like it. And it's so unserious of a series that I really enjoyed it. And Denji as the main character, I like that he's not like, oh, I want to be the best fighter. I want to be the strongest. I want to be Hokage. Like, I appreciate that. All he really wants is food on his plate and a place to sleep and a roof over his head. Like, he's pretty simple, and he wants to touch girls. I mean, who doesn't? But like, his wants are so simple, and that is a main character that I feel like I can finally get behind. And all of the characters in Chainsaw Man are just delightful. Even you, Kobeni. I did have to think about, look, Kobeni, I need to give her time. Power's best girl though. Power, she is best. But the reason why I put it on the list is the presentation of the anime is so good. Like, I'm a manga reader for it. I read the manga before the anime come out. Not that I'm humble bragging. Everyone loves to brag about that. I read the Chainsaw Man manga before it was an anime. Dude, no one cares. Chainsaw Man has literally been like the #1 manga on Shonen Jump app for like how long? But the anime presents itself so good, and it's honestly so far a really faithful adaptation. And I love that they add more to the anime, and it just, the aesthetic reminds me of kind of staying up at 3 a.m. to watch Adult Swim and watching like Paranoia Agent or Ghost in the Shell. It's just like that kind of like slow emotional presentation. It's not just constantly fighting. They do have their slow moments and their slow episodes where they really take the time to present the characters' emotions to you, which I really like, instead of just like constant fighting, constant movement all the time and throwing all these characters at you. I'm looking forward to more Chainsaw Man. I think that the first 12 or 13 episodes that they've adapted so far have been wonderful, and I cannot wait to see more. I just love its aesthetic and the characters. It's so unserious and so stupid. It's finally a shonen I can get on board with. Number 2, which is also technically a shonen, but does not feel like a shonen in the way that Chainsaw Man does. Let me actually say, Chainsaw Man also it's more seinen, right? It feels seinen, but it's a shonen jump. I will not argue in the comments with you about genre. That's dumb. Number 2 is SpyXFamily. Like, SpyXFamily, just every single episode is an absolute delight to watch. Seeing an assassin and a telepath and a spy live together and not know each other, have these powers or these abilities, is so funny. Like, it's such a perfect comedy while also having like action and politics. And I'm really impressed with how they've adapted the manga. I'm also a manga reader for that. And what I really love is how they've added stuff that wasn't in the manga at all. And it doesn't feel fillery. Nothing about it feels fillery. It just maybe has these like 15 minutes of an episode of stuff that was never in the manga, but that still makes sense and still feels faithful to SpyXFamily. This show probably checks off every single mark on my list for what a good anime needs. It needs the comedy, it needs likable characters. It needs enough action. It needs enough, the story needs enough drive. Like, I'm actually interested to see how Lloyd completes his mission and how he does it in such a weird way by creating this wacko family. I'm just so excited for more seasons of this. All I know is that I even gave SpyXFamily a second watch, like the second part of the first season. I gave it a second watch, and I even liked it the second time. I usually don't rewatch anime, but I was able to do it for SpyXFamily, and I absolutely love it. I need more. And number 1 on the list, it's Lycoris Recoil. I have my Lycoris Recoil poster calendar back there. It's just, this is the kind of anime that I always wait for. And sometimes when I start episode 1 of anime, I think this is, like, Lycoris Recoil is what I'm gonna get, but then, like, it's, like, low quality, or the story drops off, or doesn't make sense, or maybe the studios just didn't know what to do with it, and it's just, like, the last 3 or 4 episodes just doesn't make it. But Lycoris Recoil I like because you have these 2 main characters, these 2 main female characters who are trained to be assassins, and they work at this cafe called Rico, kind of this is their undercover base, and it's set in a maybe like not too far future Tokyo, and they basically deal with like terrorist attacks within Tokyo. And honestly, that seems like a little bit of a boring or generic premise, but everything about Lycoris Recoil comes from its presentation. The scenarios of each episode that happen, everything keeps you on the edge of your seat. And to see the characters Takina and Chisato, who I'm a big Takina fan, by the way. Takina, best girl. I also like Chisato though. To see these 2 characters, one a little bit more serious, takes her job super seriously, one who is basically a prodigy in assassin and a prodigy at her job, but also does not take it very seriously, like is very comedic and very goofy about it. To see these 2 characters interacting with each other, sometimes you watch an anime and you see a dynamic between the 2 characters that you love so much that you'll watch them fight together, and you're like, this is cool. But I would also like to watch these characters just go shopping for clothes. And this is also Lycoris Recoil. Like, you'll have episodes that are super serious and full of action, but then like you fall in love with the 2 characters so much that you don't mind watching an episode where it's like Chisato taking Takina to the mall to kind of like tell her like more about like how it is to like actually feel human and not just be connected to the assassin side of yourself so much. I mean, don't take it from me. Hideo Kojima himself absolutely adores this show, so that kind of gives you some insight on what type of show it is and how it presents itself. The other thing that stands out about Lycoris Recoil is I think the dialogue. This is some of the best written dialogue in anime I've ever seen. Now, I did watch it in Japanese with English subtitles, and while I'm only like a low level of Japanese, or at least maybe lower intermediate level of Japanese, I do think that I can still stand and say that, because hearing the voice acting and then seeing the subtitles, like the localization team that did the subtitles, I think they personally did a really good job, because I had so many laughs, and just the dialogue, the conversations between the 2 characters is some of the best parts of the show. Anyway guys, that's my list, but I really want to know what you guys have been watching. There's definitely some stuff that I missed. I know I missed a whole new season of Encouragement of the Climb. How dare I? That's like one of my favorite anime of all time. But there's just like so much every season, and I get overwhelmed every single season. But let me know what your favorites were for 2022. Let me know what you're looking forward to in 2023. I know that I am looking forward to the 2nd season of Bofuri. I'm gonna go watch that. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Like it if you like it, subscribe for more anime and Japan content, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye!